My name is Kim Lockmilo. I'm known as Kaiju Kim on YouTube. I create wholesome and delightfully stupid content related to Godzilla and his fellow Kaiju, among other things. I also have a business called Media, where I edit media, podcast videos mostly. But yes, I used to have a show on my channel called Chill with Kaiju Kim, so this is kind of like a live panel edition of that. So, and I have some lovely people up here with me, so I'd like to introduce themselves.
Right before I go, thanks, Hamilton. It's really nice to meet you. I'm not but flattered, sir. Hello, everybody. Thank you. I was about to say I tried, but I don't. Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel DeManna, and amongst other things, I'm the creator and author of the Godzilla novelization project. And, thank you. That was nice.
I thought I had 2 hands.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I'm also a frequent contributor to Kaiju Ramen Magazine, Kaiju Ramen Media. I've been on 1,001 different podcasts. I've been on Kim's wonderful show multiple times. And I'm ready to hang out and talk about an awesome movie.
My name is Michael Hamilton. I am one of the co-creators of Kaiju Ramen Magazine, Kaiju Ramen Media. I'm also the host of the Power Trip podcast. If you like Power Rangers and Super Sentai, we have been co-hosts. Hang on, I'll get there.
It's starting already.
It's already starting. We'll get to you in a minute, Marcia. But I've been a podcaster for a few years. I've had the pleasure of being on this lovely lady's show several times. I've probably podcasted with these guys more than anyone else in the last 4 years. It's been a blast, so I'm just happy to be here.
Hello, G-Fest attendees! I'm Nathan Marsh. I'm Michael's co-host on the Power Trip. Me. Kim canceled him. Anyway.
Gentlemen, I do want to bring up that if anything gets out of hand, I do have the King Ghidorah squeaky hammer. I'm not here. I will bop you, sir. I will reach over Hamilton and I will bop you.
Anyway, I'm also the editor and a frequent contributing writer for Kaiju Ramen Magazine and the host of the Monster Island Film Ball podcast and Henshin Men, which is all about Henshin heroes, and also a very frequent freelance writer and novelist.
Hi, I'm Elijah Thomas. I am the production manager and writer for Kaiju Ramen Media. I also am their video editor. I use my side little thing called ET13 Productions to do all their editing. I also host the podcast Kaiju Conversation, and I've been on Kim's show once or twice. They don't like me because of my opinions, but it's okay.
Anyway, yes. So that's us. And of course, today we'll be talking about Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2. So we'll start with our, just overall thoughts, positives and negatives. Kind of like a positivity sandwich that came out.
Oh, that's copyright.
I'm allowed to use it because
She's the queen. She can use it. The Kaiju queen has spoken. Yes, quite. Yes, we got one yes quite.
Oh, good lord. Okay, so I'm ready. So one of the things that I personally like about this film is that it reintroduces Rodan and Mechagodzilla in very interesting ways. Rodan is established as, maybe Godzilla's brother, I guess, and it's shown to be like a kind of a protector of sorts. So that's something we've never seen with Rodan before. So I thought that was pretty cool. He's usually pretty self-serving. And Mechagodzilla, he was used as a military weapon in the original Civil War film. In this film, wait, did I mess it up? No,
You got to reverse that.
Yeah, reverse it. He's okay. So Mechagodzilla is a military weapon in this film, as opposed to an alien cyborg in the original film. That's what I meant to say. There we go. I know who I can handle. And we also see a softer side of Godzilla towards the end, and a little slight character development for one of the human characters. So I'll just go ahead and what are your thoughts on this film?
And this is a personal favorite of mine. It's hard to find a Godzilla film where I don't say some variation on this is a personal favorite of mine. This is true. But this one, this is true. I'm a very positive person. I have a connection with this one that's very nostalgic. I watched it a lot. I wore out my tape as a kid watching this. But outside of that, I think it really is a pretty genuinely great film. I think it deals with some interesting thematics. I always love the deep stuff. But it's also incredibly entertaining. It's got some great reintroductions of classic monsters. This is the first Heisei film that didn't invent at least one new creature. They're all variations on existing kaiju. And it's the only time that the Heisei series ever did that. And they did it beautifully. It's got some great human characters in it. We'll get to that later on. But just as an overview, yeah, this is a film that I really treasure from my childhood. And it's a pretty darn good one at that.
I don't know how I can follow that, but okay. I really like this film. It was one of the first Heisei films that I ever got the opportunity to watch. I think the first time I saw this was on the, remind me, Danny, what VHS was that came out in 1998?
The TriStar.
The TriStar releases, yeah. So this one holds a special place in my heart because I love Mechagodzilla. I love the lore and everything behind Mechagodzilla. Although this is my least favorite iteration of the mechanical kaiju, I still have a soft spot for this, mainly for the thematics that Danny pointed out. You know, the thematics of artificial life and natural life coming together to make this interesting story. We have a lot of character growth with both the human characters and the kaiju, and that's why I just really adore this film. And you know, the beam battles are cool, but it's really the thematics that I enjoy for this one.
Funny how you say that this was one of the first Heisei films you saw, because this, for me, was the last. Because this one came out later of those TriStar VHSs. They put out the other four 90s films right after Godzilla 98 came out, and I think this one was about a year later, which was kind of weird. And yeah, this was one that when I was a young Godzilla fan was getting hyped a lot, so I was very eager to see it. So the fact that I had to wait a little longer for that VHS was a little annoying, but I was overall pretty satisfied when we got to see it. There was a time frame where I wasn't as warm to it, but in preparation for this panel, watching it again, I found myself warming back up to it once more, so we'll unpack that as we go. This does hold the record for the most screen time for Godzilla out of any of the movies. It's what, 27, 28 minutes, Danny?
Something like that.
Something like that, yeah, it's a lot. And, and like I said, there's a lot of special effects going on, which I think is what draws a lot of people to this. There's a lot going on, and Baby Godzilla is highly marketable.
And adorable.
I was like, where is he?
Where's Baby?
Oh,
Where's
I
Baby
love my baby.
Where's Baby?
He's sitting in the front row.
I got you. Yep, I got
Someone
you.
fetch Baby.
Okay,
It's happening.
Danny will
It's going down.
Fetch Baby.
All right, pictures for Danny. We're getting
Baby Godzilla! Yes! Your child.
Well done.
Yes.
Well done.
He had to be here. That's
That's
important.
Yes, it's very important. Yes, and right here. I don't know if Hubble is going to stand up, but there you go. All right, Elijah, get your thoughts.
So, remember how I said nobody likes my opinions up here? We're about to understand why. So, when I first, I haven't seen this movie in a long time, until preparation for this panel. And I remember liking it until I rewatched it, and I was actually kind of surprised how shallow I kind of felt like the movie was. The criticizing starting already. So, I mean, it does have some good stuff. Ifukube score is honestly it's probably my favorite from his Heisei work. The main theme alone, I think, is worthy enough to be top tier Heisei.
It is.
Besides that, I actually like a Godzilla movie with a little less Godzilla than a little more. So this kind of follows my trend of liking the less screen time films than the more screen time. There is some good aspects about this. I enjoy some of the beam fights, not all of them, but some of them. And I enjoy seeing the reimaginings of all of the kaiju, especially Baby Godzilla and Mechagodzilla. Both of those obviously did something because they would kind of follow the Heisei Mechagodzilla trend, with Kiryu making it a humanized man-made robot, same with GVK's Mechagodzilla. And so that's pretty nice. And then Baby Godzilla, I think they did such a good job with Baby Godzilla that clearly Toho knew, because they ended up having to copyright it as a separate character from Vanilla. So I tried to make them not hate me too much.
Good job. So far you're doing an okay job. It's fine. An okay job.
You survived this one.
All right, so there are a lot of people in the fandom that see this film as the weakest in the Heisei era. Why do you think that is?
Gosh. Honestly, I don't know if I'm the person to ask about that. I feel like Elijah would probably have more clear answers than
You know what? That's a good idea. Why don't we start with Elijah?
You know what? Let's do it. I have opinions and ideas. You go for it.
So I think part of the issue with the film was in pre-production before they started filming, they were originally planning for this movie to be the last of the Heisei era. This was because Sony had already agreed to do a Godzilla movie, and they were actively developing what everybody kind of knows as Godzilla 94 with the Stan Winston design and the Griffin and all of that. So at one point, Toho was developing this to be their last Godzilla movie. They weren't going to do any more after this, and actually I'm pretty sure the original plan here was just to not do anything until 2004. But as we all know, that 94 film never got made, and so they kept going. So I think part of it was the crew behind this. I feel like this film kind of shows they were a little tired from doing the Godzilla films, and the diminishing returns obviously was not a very helpful aspect. If I remember correctly, King Ghidorah only made its money back because of the toy sales. It didn't even make its money back with its box office. But I think the lack of interest by this point kind of hurt it. I think, because Okawara was the director, he ended up doing this one and Space Godzilla, if I remember. No, he didn't do Space Godzilla.
No, as a different guy.
But I know that Destroya, the director of Destroya, that was Okawara, he kind of needed a break. Because with Destroya, it's obvious, I feel like there was a lot more energy with that one compared to this one. I think the issues with Rodan being a plot device throughout the film is kind of lacking for a lot of fans, especially since Rodan is probably one of the best kaiju from the Showa era, all things considered with, not just his own film, but all of his featured roles in like Ghidorah and Astro Monster and whatnot. So I think that was a little bit of a turnoff for some people, seeing Rodan be kind of devalued down to what I'd say is a side kaiju. Because I would say Baby's the side kaiju, and then from there, Rodan's below him.
I'd also say that the point of contention for this film with people is Mechagodzilla himself. That it's hard to argue that topping the 70s field, design, the backstory was always going to be a tall order. This is such a different take. This is like this. I love this version of Mechagodzilla personally, but I understand the reasons why a lot of people don't. It lacks a lot of, since it's basically a giant vehicle, it does lack a lot of character. What you're following are the people inside it less than the actual vehicle itself. And I think that's actually a strength of the film, but it's not what a lot of fans might have been expecting. And therefore, they probably didn't latch onto it as strongly. Your mileage may vary, but there are a lot of people who aren't as big a fan of the design for this one. There are a lot of people who don't like anything with a baby Godzilla in it. A lot of people think, I know, it's sad, but even if it's this one, some people just don't like it. There are a lot of people who feel like the film is too long. I know a lot of people have had words about the end battle being of a certain length, things like that. So there are reasons. There are definitely reasons.
Yeah, there are reasons. Like there are some. And you're the writer. You and Dane both are the writers here, so I'm sure you guys will address like the writing and scripting issues of this movie. But I actually kind of agree with you, Danny. Like the complaints about this movie, I feel like are very surface level. I would dare to say very surface level, because Mechagodzilla 2, the Heisei Mechagodzilla, doesn't have the personality the Showa did. Because the Showa Mechagodzilla was sinister. It had a lot of personality to it. This is a cold machine. This is something man-made.
It's a giant gun.
It's a giant. Yeah, it's essentially just a giant gun.
But it's still very much like the original Terminator. It's still, that's what it's still. He still gives off a villainous vibe since it's essentially feeling.
And that's what I think one of the
That's
strengths of this
in
film
that
is.
sense, it's still like a terrifying, but a different variety of terrifying than the show was.
Right, it reinforces the idea that artificial life is just this cold, lifeless thing.
Yes.
You know.
It's very much a story about humanity trying to rise to Godzilla's level,
Right.
and the only way they can do that is artificially, right? So
and
Mechagodzilla.
using reverse engineered future tech to boot.
Yes, yeah, that's the other aspect, is that this Mechagodzilla only exists because of some time travel shenanigans, right? They
Right.
reverse engineered Mechaking Ghidorah's cybernetic components, which creates this weird kind of time loop thing that we won't get into.
Yeah, well, you and I already unpacked that last year, but
We've been there,
yeah, we're not getting into that to this year. I will say, I remember, like I said, as a young Godzilla fan, that this movie was getting hyped quite a bit as the best of the Heisei era, and I don't think it is. But I have to echo what Elijah said a little bit. I do think there was a little, even though I'm warmer to it now than the last time I watched it before I prepped for this, I do think that, and this is more just a general statement in here's my hot take about the Heisei movies. I don't think the 90s Heisei movies have aged as well as other Godzilla films. I think Millennium has aged a bit better. Mind you, it has the advantage of being newer. And the Showa movies have all aged very well, I think. And I think the 80s Heisei films have aged pretty well, but I don't think these have. And a lot of it has to do with some of the things that we've already been discussing, and I do think there were some missed opportunities in this one. There's a few that I can get into, but one that I pointed out to Michael when we were watching the movie together before G-Fest was that I felt like what's the name of the girl who connects with Baby? I forget her name. Asusa. I honestly wish that Asusa and Nikki had swapped roles. I think it would have been more interesting if Nikki had been the one to connect with Baby.
Yeah, that's actually, I agree with that. That's actually something we're going to get into a little later because I have like a point to talk about that. Speaking of the human characters, let's talk about them very quickly. So we he just looks
Word of advice, do not, if you're a guy trying to pick up girls, do not lead with I'm a Pteranodon enthusiast. It will not get you anywhere.
Shot of Pteranodons out of nowhere.
You gotta find the right girl.
And this little thing is a fossil.
Sorry, man.
Has he tried that line?
Hi, he's not a Pteranodon.
So yes, he is a Pteranodon enthusiast. He very much, he's not very good at reading the room.
That's an understatement. This dude. So, yeah, he's, you know what, no, is that what you have to say about him?
You're not the perfect screenshot for it.
It looks like he's either stepping something and won the lottery.
But yes, again, he's skilled in mechanical engineering, you can read it there. But there's not much to say about him. That much. But what else were we going to say?
No, just that about sums it up. He's kind of okay. Let's be real for a second. How many people in this room are Pteranodon fans? Thank you. So he's
Oh, and maybe I didn't read the room. I just assumed that everybody here.
that's it. I did that to prove a point, Merchant. So no, okay, for real. Check this out. The actual reason I did that is because this guy is doing things that no human being on this planet will ever probably get to do, like piloting a giant dinosaur robot. But what's relatable about him is that he's got this weird, nerdy thing that he likes. So he is kind of the audience insert character, right? So we're seeing things that are very unusual and alien, but we're seeing it through the eyes of somebody who maybe definitely like us. We all love our monsters and our dinosaurs. This guy has that in common with us, and so it's easier to kind of latch onto him, even when he doesn't read a room very well, And also, fun fact, this is, some of you probably know this, Mr. Masahiro Takashima here is the son of Tadao Takashima, who you would probably recognize from King Kong vs. Godzilla and Etrigan. And his brother is in Biontech. Masahiro and Masanobu were acting brothers. So yeah, anyway, fun fact, your turn.
I'm actually going to pass the mic over down to Elijah.
Have fun bearing.
Why me?
I'll just pick you.
Oh, okay. Well, so I found the dialogue kind of annoying for him. He's kind of an annoying character. I don't get the Ghidorah thing, but I get a balloon. But no, I found his attempts to be flirty kind of ridiculous, and I think part of that comes from the script. There's clearly an idea to develop a love plot here, but I kind of, Danny, you can tell me if you agree with me here. You probably don't, but I kind of feel like Kazuma's like a proto-Nyctotopoulos, like this awkward scientist that has this girl he likes and doesn't.
Except I think Nick was better at it. He actually had a girlfriend.
You don't like this dude very much, do you? What did this guy do to you?
I just being needlessly mean.
Who hurt you? Did he hurt you?
He got threatened with a slap, okay?
Probably for the best.
That is my favorite line. That's my favorite line in the dog is, if you continue, you're going to get a slap in the face.
She should. She
Yeah,
probably should.
said by Susan Gojo, who the singer of that line. There's, aside from her being like baby surrogate mother, there's not a whole lot to this character. She's very sweet, she's very caring, and she was not afraid to stand up for, herself and for others, so that's pretty cool. You have anything to say about Susan?
I mean, that's about it. Again, the characters in this film they're not the deepest bunch. You know what I mean? They don't necessarily need to be for the point of the story. So I don't consider that a huge flaw. But she gets to be the mom in this, right? She gets to be the mom. She gets to be the one who gets sealed up in the box. To go flying off of the helicopter. That's pretty amazing that she would do that. It shows that she's got this really strong bond with this creature that she was pretty spooked about at the beginning. This thing hatches in front of you. You're not sure what it's going to do. And there's really, you can't really talk about it without talking about Baby 2, but we'll save that because the two of them are really a pair. But I really like her. I think she's incredibly sweet and a nice character. Yeah.
Quick question for all of you. Do you think that this movie takes the quantity over quality approach to its characters? Because it has a lot of characters, which is true of most of the Heisei films.
That's true, most movies.
Well, I was asking the panel, not necessarily everyone. Sorry, if you want to answer that, go ahead.
It feels more like quality to me. Because, when she first makes that grant up, she does take her job quite seriously. I find that quite commendable.
I mean, she serves as the heart. She helps serve as the heart of this movie, right? So she's here to help us sympathize with Baby. And then through Baby, we're supposed to sympathize with Godzilla because in this movie we start seeing Godzilla's sort of face turn for the Heisei era, right? With this movie. But I don't have much else to say about the character per se.
Nathan, Elijah, any thoughts on this, Susan?
I mean, I'm just gonna kind of say something nice for once.
Oh, really?
I feel like I honestly felt like her character was pretty good. Like she didn't have any annoying aspects. Her story pretty well went through. Besides that love story that I mentioned earlier, that kind of went nowhere. But overall, I thought she was pretty decent.
You have more chemistry with Baby than you do the male lead.
Yeah.
Baby Godzillas are nicer than people.
You might be right.
All right, so the most interesting human character is Mechagodzilla. Of course, she is a recurring character in the Heisei era, and we start to see a little bit of character development with Meki because she starts to question her mission to defeat Godzilla because of
Yeah, this, for me, is probably the most interesting aspect of the movie. And I have my criticisms for how Mickey was handled in the Heisei era. Looking back on it, I don't think Mickey was handled as well as I would have liked in retrospect. She's still a cool character. But this is the one, like you said, Kim. We're seeing some progression here with her, and she's starting to wonder if this is the best idea. And it actually makes sense in this movie because now we're seeing a different side of Godzilla where we're leaning into Godzilla as parent again, but in a very different way compared to the Showa era. think that was the catalyst to make her start to question things. And I do think using her to locate the second brain, and they can't do that mission without Mickey, and then the struggle that she has trying to figure out what to do with that, I do think was pretty genuine. So even though I wish she had been the one to bond with Baby, which I think would have made that story stronger in the long run, it was still great that that they gave her this aspect, which is what they use going forward.
They cut out. I wish that they would have left the deleted scene in Mickey, where Baby essentially turns on him in a way, because she's sending the missing scene where she senses how she's been after Godzilla all this time, but she has to go out of her way to make that connection stronger with Baby. I think that this film is really missing something by not including that.
Yeah, I was going to say that was going to be a point I was going to bring up later, that we would have seen more of like Mickey and Baby's connection, and then we would have felt something even more like towards the end of the film, and then later in the Heisei era when things happen to Junior.
Right, and Mickey has an interesting realization in this movie too. Like when she says, I'm paraphrasing, I used to think defeating Godzilla was a good thing for mankind, but now she's not sure, and that's paraphrasing. So it's interesting to see her turn from this character that's fighting on behalf of humanity, and now she's kind of considering, Godzilla's this living creature, and that we should preserve him because he has as much right to live on this earth as we do.
So, okay, let me ask you a question, because from my understanding, the general consensus of this panel is cut Asusa and replace her with Mickey, right?
I don't know if this is...
Not necessarily cut her, like tone her down.
I think her and Mickey's role should be reversed.
But, so, okay, let me ask you guys this. So if we made Mickey relate to Baby, then wouldn't that mean that Mickey basically is the Godzilla Whisperer, and that, like at that point, because she's already got that connection with Godzilla.
That's been developing since last night.
So would that be giving her too much of a powerful character role for a side character at that point? Like, I don't know, I feel like that would be kind of putting too much on her as a character.
Well, here's a question. Who was more likely to be in the lab when the egg hatched, Asusa or Mickey? There you go. So, if that's the way you're going to set up your story, then naturally she'd be the one to be in that position. If you're going to change that, then the whole story, that chunk of the story would need to be rewritten. Maybe they take the egg to the Psionic Institute and it's there when it hatches instead of in the other lab or something like that. It would require some slight script doctoring, but go ahead.
No, I was just going to say a fun fact. You bring up the Psychic Institute, the two girls that she meets there early on, they're twins.
Yep. And then Tadao Takashima shows up in that scene and has a scene with his son. I love that. There's not a lot more I can add about Mickey's character that you guys haven't mentioned. She is the catalyst character. She is the human point of entry into our change of opinion on Godzilla at this point in the series, because this is, and we'll get into this when we get to monsters here in a second, but the way that they handle Godzilla's quote-unquote turn here is unexpected and really brilliant, I think, and she's a big part of that.
Just a quick funny observation to go with the second screenshot on here, because that's from the end of the film. It was like when she's using her powers to tell Baby that it's okay to go with Godzilla, and she has to undo her hairdo. It was like, what is that? How she unlocks the full extent of her power? She has to like unbraid the hair.
She has to wear fabulous.
It's the chakras, man. It's the chakras. I think. I don't know.
All right, moving on. Before we get off the rails. All right, so let's talk about the kaiju. Yes, our favorite kaiju, everyone's favorite kaiju, right? That's our So for me, this design in particular is iconic because when you know how someone asks you like, when you think of Godzilla, what design do you think of? This is the design for me that I think of. So yes, isn't he awesome? But yeah, so Godzilla in this movie, I feel sorry for Godzilla in this movie because he literally spends the entire film just trying to get to his kid, and people keep stopping him. So sad.
How Kenpachiro Satsuma in the suit did this. with his body language, but Godzilla, without any kind of anthropomorphization, looks sad. He looks crestfallen. He looks like he has, this is why he's here. For the first time in this continuity, even including the 54 film, we now have a very clear motivation for Godzilla. He is here for one reason. This is the reason. And when he's denied that, there's this incredible sense of just he's just crestfallen when he leaves. You almost think he's crying in a way, like he's sad. And there's no real outward change. We're seeing him in a different light. And that is really, really brilliant. So Godzilla becomes, the way that we see the character in this film evolves in a really smart way. I think that might actually be the strongest point of the film for me.
Yeah. I mean, this is not what I think of. Like this particular, now I have to ask him, is it this particular design or just the Heisei era, or the Heisei Godzilla in general?
It's just the Heisei Godzilla in general.
Okay, so this is, for me, this is my least favorite Godzilla design in the Heisei era. It's 91 all the way for me, personally. But like you said, Dan, I really can't add much to that.
Sorry.
Thank you for stealing my thunder. I appreciate that.
That's okay, it'll get to make his panel out faster.
It will, and it needs. But but like my friend said, I like Godzilla's subtle face turn. So it's not as abrupt as it was in the Showa era, where Godzilla goes from menace to hero. It's a lot more subtle in Mechagodzilla 2, and the subtlety is what draws me.
So why is this your least favorite of the Heisei?
I didn't say that.
Well, then what is it about this that you don't like? What
I
about
think
this
that
design?
it drags in the second and third act.
So it's just the character, not the design?
Oh, we're talking about, sorry, we're talking about the super fun. I think the legs are too skinny. I think just the overall profile of this particular suit I don't care for all that much, more so than like 91, even 94, 95 I care for.
So you like the thick thighs?
I love thick thighs. Thick thighs.
Better you than me. Anyway, I would just, there's something interesting that I noticed about this movie is that and I don't know how the rest of everyone here feels, but the story of this is basically Gorgo with a robot. You stop and think about it. Someone takes the baby, the parent Kaiju is doing everything to recover the baby, and then you go from there, and there's a giant robot involved here.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really add much onto this. It's pretty much the formula. At this point, I feel like Heisei had a pretty good idea of what they were going to do with Godzilla. So I feel like, honestly, this is just your typical Heisei Godzilla, which I feel like one thing the Heisei era did pretty well is have an idea of how to execute their Godzillas.
Alrighty, so let's move on to Mechagodzilla. Yeah. First of all, can we just talk about real quick about the theme? That theme have no business going that hard, okay? It's bombastic, it feels big, you know?
It feels big.
It's a banger.
It feels like
It
something
is a
else that's
banger.
never happened, right?
Dirty brass, dirty brass horn is that raw guttural.
Yes.
It feels epic, and there's like an era of an industrial sound to it.
I was gonna say, it sounds industrial. It feels like something, like when you're listening to it, it's almost, musically speaking, communicating something being made in a forge.
Yeah, you're witnessing the forging of a new Godzilla, or at least the humans book.
Yeah.
Alright, so what do you think about this design compared to the 74 design?
Okay.
It's indeed the coldest. It's got the least amount of personality.
Yes.
It does look, probably out of all of the Mechagodzilla designs, I think it looks the most streamlined to me. There's not really any sharp edges on this. Showa Mechagodzilla had a lot of sharp edges, but that was the point.
Although I would argue that Kiryu is more streamlined because of that.
But Kiryu had sharp edges. This one doesn't really have sharp edges. It's very, this one feels more like a sports car by comparison because
This is the Corvette.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And this was one of the first, actually I think this might have been the first Mechagodzilla design I saw because of the Trendmasters toys. And Trendmasters made some tweaks to some of their kaiju designs. They were definitely influenced by Heisei. They did not touch this one. They left it completely alone, and I actually think it was my brother had the 10, 12-inch one, and then I got the Garuda that you could stick on the back. And so it's great for toys, most certainly. So while I like the design, I do agree with everyone here that it's, compared to Showa, it has so much less personality, which I do think is the point. But if you're used to Showa, you're not really going to enjoy this because the only personality it has is what comes through from the pilot. Otherwise, like, this thing is just a very large tank that looks like a Godzilla.
I think going out of your way to compare it to Showa isn't fair to this design in a lot of ways. It's the comparison game isn't necessarily fair, I think, in this case. It's a matter of opinion. If you like one more than the other, then or you dislike one more than the other, that's fine. For me personally, this is a brave thing to admit to a room full of people. This is my favorite Mechagodzilla. This is my favorite one. And that is not a knock on the other beautiful designs at all, but there's just something about this look, the streamlined feel to it, the chrome, the coldness to it, the fact that it almost feels like there's something Schwarzenegger. There's something almost mocking about it. Like it's trying to poke at Godzilla and say, look, I'm you, and I'm better than you. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I just probably but I love this look. It's so good.
So if this Godzilla, Danny, you're the voice guy, so if this Godzilla had a voice, what would it sound like?
Do it.
I think you mean do it. Do it now. Do it now. That's how you do it.
So Danny, you're saying that this mecha is no longer Godzilla's equal, but his superior?
That's what I'm saying. That's enough of that.
Right, superior. It being 20 years bigger, maybe you try to make ourselves seem upset the underdog.
I would say so.
Maybe. Kiryu, I'm going to be honest with you, Kiryu is my favorite Mechagodzilla design. However, Kiryu is not my favorite overall Mechagodzilla.
Alright. We got more monsters to get to. Alright, we gotta move on because we don't want to go over the time limit. Alright, so Rodan. Fans in your house. Okay. Alright, cool. And so this is an interesting thing that they did with Rodan here. They gave him a new Ford Flyer Rodan. So what do we think about Rodan? Just real quick because we got
A Dago.
yes.
He's beautiful.
Here's my hot take. I prefer my Rodans to be men in suits.
That's really not that hard to say.
This design was done better in 2004.
I can't argue with that. The Fire Wars Rodan is probably the best Rodan design.
Yeah. Although, here's something though. If you ever want to just confuse your non-kaiju fans and just talk about this movie and you just leave with the sentence, so Godzilla gets killed by a robot and then revived when the soul of a dying pterodactyl fuses with
If that doesn't sell you on how awesome this movie is, I can't help you after that.
Alright.
Not a lot to say about Rodan. He's cool.
He's good people. Alright, anything else on Rodan real quick before we move on to the most important character?
And I'm seeing some hands out there. If we have time at the end, we will call on people at the end.
Yes, if we have time.
If we have time.
Yes. Alright, so, alright, moving on very quick. Most important character.
I got one word for you. Merchandising. Merchandising.
That was 2 words, weren't you?
I meant to say it. Don't do it.
This is your child. You got to tell us.
He's my baby. He's just look at him. I think this is my favorite iteration of a baby Godzilla. Because Min is okay. We like He actually looks like a baby Godzilla. You know?
Godzilla saw it.
Yeah.
he's absorbed a little radiation from the island, so
Yeah.
he's Godzilla.
He's a Godzilla.
Little Godzilla looks more like a Godzilla.
This is about as perfect of a baby Godzilla design as you can get. It looks like the adult. It's cute without being like
chibi.
Yeah, it's not chibi-esque. You know what I mean? It feels like kind of a natural.
It's a little
slide. And huge props to Hurricane Ryu in the suit for giving the character such an incredible. The animatronics that gave the face such life, the articulated eyes and eyelids and the tongue, and the glowing red eyes. This is a full-blown, beautifully realized mechanical character in the film, and not enough good things can be said about Baby Godzilla.
I was going to say, I think this might have some of the best suit work in the entire movie. With this one, and it needed to because Godzilla is kind of a force. Is meant to be a force of nature. This is a character. This is a full-fledged character that the humans and us as the audience are meant to empathize with, and it works remarkably well. And I've forgotten how well it worked until Michael and I watched the movie again.
Baby Godzilla was meant to appeal to women and female audience because they saw
And the kids.
And the kids.
Yeah.
The children.
For the children.
Alright, for the sake of time, let us move on to the next slide. Real quick, just to go over some deleted scenes and concepts. We did mention the deleted scene earlier with Mickey and Baby. Baby is a little aggressive towards Mickey at first, but Mickey actually has to reassure Baby that she's not going to hurt him because she had been using her powers to fight Godzilla up until this point, and so Baby was a little like, this chick's a little sus. Might hurt But yeah, as you can see, we have other deleted scenes and concepts. Godzilla vs. Berserk would have featured a metallic alien organism with the goal of becoming the most powerful life form on the planet. That would be kind of cool. Let's see, what else? Oh, and there's also going to be 2 Rodans instead of just 1, and one of them is going to be a female. So, yeah.
Call back to the original Rodan.
Indeed.
At one point, they were unmutated pteranodons, and the idea was one of them was going to turn into Rodan instead of the pre-existing Rodan turning into Fire Rodan. So the evolution is still there,
Yes.
but they just made Rodan more powerful.
I wonder if the Godzilla vs. Berserk concept would have worked with their budget and available technology.
I don't know. I honestly don't know if it would have. They would have had to use some really interesting optical stuff because they weren't using CG that much outside of like computer graphics on computer screens.
Yeah, it sounds like something that might have been inspired by Terminator 2, but that level of special effects technology just wasn't viable at the time in Japan, especially at that budget.
Yeah, all right, once again, for the sake of time, let's move forward to our final thoughts on this film. So my question is, would you have been okay with this film being the end of the Heisei era?
That depends on the ending, because as originally scripted, Godzilla was not supposed to live through this film. Because as Elijah mentioned, the idea was to have this be the last one, and then they were going to shut down production in Japan and move it over to TriStar. When the Yondaban film started falling apart, they did not do that. They altered the ending, and you get the one that's in the film at the end of the day. If this had been the absolute last one as shot, I think it would have, people, like fans today, 30 years later, I know, I felt that one, people would have treated it as a cliffhanger that was unresolved. People don't treat Destroya as a cliffhanger that wasn't resolved. They treat it as like a perfect, like kind of, emotional ending. And you watch more if you could, but it's such a good place to leave it off. But if the movie ended with Baby and Godzilla going off in the water, people would have said, but what happens next? But if they ended it with Godzilla dying, then it would have been fine as the end.
Yeah, I mean, this was Godzilla's 20th outing, right? This was his 20th film, yes? This was...
20, yeah, it was 20.
Yep, this was his 20th film. This is his 20th film. So, I mean, with all the notable callbacks and from past movies and the return of old characters like Mechagodzilla, Rodan, it just, to me, it felt like a complete movie. Like when Godzilla walks off into the sunset with Baby in tow, that signified to me that Godzilla's legacy would live on through generations. Like in that with Baby being the avatar for those future generations of Godzilla fans and Godzilla things to come. So I would be happy if this was the last film, personally. As much as we have loved the idea of having Godzilla continue over these decades, if this were the last film, I think I would be satisfied. Now, I wouldn't see this as necessarily a perfect.
To kind of add on to your point, Michael, this ending would be kind of reinvented for Final Wars about 11 years later, because at the end of that film, Manila and Godzilla walk off into the sunset. But for that one, I feel like it was a little bit better, just because Godzilla finally came to a actual understanding and mutual agreement with humanity beyond just.
Depends on what flavor of Godzilla we want.
Yeah, but I have two things to say about that. One, I would be curious what they were going to do if Godzilla died, and then what, the implication being they're going to raise the child will be, maybe Godzilla will be raised by humans. That could be interesting. But to go off of a little bit of what Elijah said, I actually think I would have accepted this because, having an ending that's a little bit open, quote unquote open-ended, no pun intended, I think would be fine because I can just live with the idea. It's like, okay, Godzilla is done being a destructive force of nature and is now going to basically settle down and raise a child. I would be fine with that.
In kind of an interesting way, this is personal, but for me, this was the ending of the series for a while because I only had access to the first few, most of the Heisei series. I didn't see Space Godzilla or Destroy it until years later. So for the longest time in my brain, this was the end for me, and it felt fine. Like this could have been the end, So it was nice to know that there were two other adventures with these characters later. It was kind of surreal to finally see those later in life.
I also feel like if they had been able to have the budget to do this film, like the original idea for Mechagodzilla for this film, which we see on that Rye poster, and Ready Player One would later reuse that concept a little bit. That, to me, that would have been the definitive Mechagodzilla. It's very anime-esque, it looks very mean. That is the best Mechagodzilla design.
She's actually used this for a toy.
Well, this is a very anime-esque movie.
Yes, yeah, there's obvious.
With the constant power-ups and everything going on, it feels very anime.
Yeah, exactly, because every kaiju goes through transformation. So I feel like if they had been given the budget and kind of been able to do what they originally intended, this could have been a very good ending. But
I must whack the hammer for time.
All right, so that concludes our thoughts on Mechagodzilla 2. Thank you guys so much. While I still have your attention, we're going to switch gears for just a moment because I have a very special announcement. And I've been sitting on for quite some time. Are you ready, Danny?
I'm ready. Are we still going to need to do this?
Yes.
Darkness. Silence. The place where life and death hold equal power for a single lonely soul. This is where you'll find me. It's quiet here. Warm. There's comfort within my little realm, a kind of serenity that comes with acceptance. I remember, I dream, what's this? Something's different. I feel cold.
I must do something, or else Eric will die.
Father, Father, I'm here. Please hear me. Please. I'm still. What is this? Father, what have you done? There's something else here. Something's changing. I'm changing. What's happening to me? No! This power, this anger, I want to destroy.
short 2D animated film called ERIKA, based on Godzilla vs. Violante, because in that film, we don't really get to know ERIKA very well, but this film will explore the character of ERIKA as we pretty much watching the events of Godzilla vs. Violante from her perspective. I'll be writing, directing, and, well, he'll be writing it.
Yes.
I understand that.
ERIKA that you heard is Alyssa Charpentier. You know her as Alyssa. And this beautiful poster right here you see here is by Tanner Wright. The Kickstarter for this project will be launching on August 1st. It's going to be a pretty hefty goal of $10,000. So I'm really going to need your help, guys, if you can. Last time I checked, I had like 1,075 subscribers, so at least if every single one of those subscribers get like $10, we'd be there.
It would happen.
It would happen
quick. So spread the word about this. Tell people about this. If you know Violante fans in your life that aren't here, text or call them. Yes, tell them about this. Share this on social media. Let people know. I am so thrilled for you, Kim. It's not even funny. I'm so happy for you. This is going to be wonderful.
The other night, and we begged her to tell us what this thing was that she's been working on, but you know, it was worth the wait. So congratulations to you and Danny and Melissa, of course.
It's 4 till. We gotta go.
We gotta go. I'm so sorry for the people who had their hands up and wanted to ask questions. I'm so sorry. If you want to come, you would be willing to come and ask questions after we go on stage. We'll talk. Great.
Only got one for Dan.
I gotta run.
Dan's gotta run. All right. Thank you, guys.